There are a number of dynamics impacting the broader stock market during the second quarter. Certainly the reopening with its stop and start, the Delta variant having impact competing against vaccination rates. Fortunately, the current vaccine seems quite effective against all the variants. But you've got that pent-up spending with potentially more coming. Certainly on the consumer side, saving rates are high, and then with a stimulus plan likely emerging out of the U.S., certainly creating some strong dynamics on the demand side, which ultimately created inflation fears, and therefore interest rates would go up and stock markets would potentially go down. So that's what we saw mid-quarter. Central banks came out and said, you know what, we think inflation is temporal, that the supply chain issues that have been impacting supply can be remedied, and we'll be back to a lower inflation environment. And we sort of subscribe to the same idea. So we're willing to keep sort of our pro-growth tilt. But ultimately saw over the quarter, both Canada and the U.S. markets both did very well. The North American dividend fund kind of aligned with the blended benchmark in Canadian dollars. So certainly there, we didn't have much energy exposure, which did help Canada quite a bit as sort of the cyclical recovery, but had exposure, enough tech exposure and consumer discretionary, kind of some of those cyclical things that those did help us out. One name that lagged a bit was bookings. Again, with the stop start and the reopening, travel was impacted, but we see a lot of promise remaining in that name. Made a few small changes to the portfolio. Sold a company called ADP, which is really a payroll processing exposed to employment. As employment recovered, so did the stock. We sold it. Added several new names, but included Facebook. First time we've taken a position there as we see good value. And a company called NXP, which is a semiconductor company, really exposed to a lot of good trends. Certainly the reopening. Pricing is strong in this environment. But exposed to a number of industries, including sort of electrification as a longer-term trend. So keeping that pro-growth tilt. We do think this reopening continues to go, keeping an eye on some of the risk factors. Again, there's another variant pop up that impacts it. So we have to be careful that inflation, as much as we sort of have our view, we want to be nimble and make sure we track those things closely. But at this point, it's steady as we go.